Hey guys, just finished watching The Flash, Season 4, Episode 15, Enter Flash Time. What an episode. Oh my god, this was a great episode. Now, on its own, it is kind of like a filler episode, but this episode was so good, and it was so cool. I mean, it kind of doesn't really connect too much to the whole DeVoe storyline, although unless we find out later on that they were kind of connected to these guys who set off the bomb, were kind of connected to DeVoe and all that stuff, but I mean, they hint at it, but there's not really confirmed whether or not DeVoe was behind this. And if he was behind this, he figured out. He knew that Flash would figure it out. He knew how that he wouldn't kill himself, because unless DeVoe was DeVoe was technically out of it in a different dimension, so it wouldn't kill him. He's not in Central City. But it was just so cool seeing everyone going at different flash speed, and you getting different people, and how Barry learns that he can't hold people in flash time too long, otherwise their body will break down. They'll start slowing, they'll rapidly decay and stuff, and it's really kind of, their bodies are just not made for going at that as flash time. So let's jump into the list here. The first thing is we start off with Barry. We open 7 minutes later. Barry is sweaty, so it's kind of interesting that that 7 minutes later, the whole show, did it take place between 7-8 minutes? I mean, it doesn't take 8 minutes for the whole for the bomb to go off. Obviously, it's going off in like milliseconds, and that's how long time is really going by when they're all in flash time. Only a couple of milliseconds and things, or even half of that type of thing, our time's going off like that. So, which is interesting because the episode later on opens up with kind of Barry kind of trying to run fast enough to jump into a breach before it closes, just so like he can catch DeVoe. And so when he's in flash time, how long did Barry, like if Barry had a watch that was going on, that he started a timer when he stops time and he kind of just sits there and walks around, how long on his watch how long does his body go for, I think that was that 8 minutes while he was paused, so that 2 seconds lasted 8 minutes, and this whole episode took over 8 minutes of time within the milliseconds of the bomb going off. Because that was kind of interesting to see that in 8 minutes and something odd seconds or whatever. But so I guess that was cool. And only 8 minutes is that how long it took Barry, and then also after that, it kind of really kind of just drained him of all his energy, which is a really nice episode. It was interesting with that. It was really cool seeing where things go with that. It was quite cool. Then we get we go back to seeing Barry trying to jump into the breach before they close, and he can't do that. He's not fast enough because the breach closes in almost 2/3, like 3/3 or something like that, or 1/3 or something, or of a nanosecond type thing, and so it's really, really, really fast to close. We find out that Ralph is moving to Star Labs. He's going to live in Star Labs because he's afraid of DeVoe. Although we don't see anything of Ralph in this episode, it would have been cool to see him do stuff. Maybe see him stretched out during in time. That would have been cool to see that. Maybe if he had joined everyone to stop the robberies and stuff, and that would have been cool if they had stopped and picked him up, and we could see him kind of stretched out throughout the whole thing. That would have been funny, add some levity to this episode. But this episode was so serious, it was great. I love this episode. As far as filler episodes go, this is the one that kind of really kind of connects, because you can just say that yes, and they do say it, that DeVoe did create this, it was involved, although they don't kind of confirm whether or not, it's not clear whether or not he did hire her, and whether or not he knew Flash was gonna make it out. It was up to him, type of thing. But that was kind of cool with that, is that they do it is kind of a filler episode, but it can connect a little bits and pieces to the main story, and I like that for this. So then we get Jesse shows up and ends up scaring Cisco. Wells won't talk about his wife. Joe is helping. This is where we get the bomb. Joe is helping actually Argus move the bomb and stuff, and then some gunmen show up and try to take it, and they set it off. They set off the nuke, and Jesse and Barry are going in flash time. Decide that Barry sends Jesse to get Jay Garrick, which is great, which is awesome seeing John with the ship here. Although something was weird. I think they kind of darkened his eyebrows or something, because that just stood out for me every time I saw him, especially when he was his face was full screen type thing. It was kind of really noticeable. His eyebrows were kind of way darker than the rest of his hair, but that was kind of interesting. And then we find out, then they try to get Vibe. He can't breach it he's trying to breach it to a different Earth, but he can't breach without time, and that made sense. It's like, well, Barry can run and throw his lightning in the side of that because he's, speed, but Vibe can't shoot his stuff because his Vibe is not going to come out at the speed he's going. It's going to come out at normal speed, and it can't shoot out fast enough. So they try that, and then Jay ends up slowing down. Jay doesn't know it, then Jesse shows up with Jay and shows Jay, and Barry shows him flash time when he touches Wells, but Jay Garrick doesn't know about that, doesn't even know that. So it sounds like it's the flash time power is something that Barry got just because he was spent so much time in the Speed Force, which is interesting to see that. Maybe he gets some new powers that nobody other people can. I mean, even Jesse Quick tries to use that later on in the episode, but doesn't end up working. So that's kind of cool playing with that. And they decide to try and throw the bomb into the Speed Force, but if they do that, they could lose the Speed Force and destroy the Speed Force, and Jay Garrick won't have that. So that's kind of cool. And then they try to get Killer Frost to freeze it, but again, she can't shoot her powers enough. Her powers are not going to come out fast enough to really hit the explosion. Their powers are only going to come out as fast as time is going, and the bomb is just too hot to do anything. And then Jay ends up slowing down. Jesse leaves to go be with Wells, and Barry goes to Iris, and Iris ends up telling him, go get the speed ball, and uses the Speed Force lightning to stop the nuke. And then Jay ends up telling everyone that he's retiring, which is interesting with the Speed Force ball and kind of getting that little blue thing. Now that thing's been thrown into the nuke, it's probably destroyed. The lightning hits that. What happens to the Speed Force? Does someone else need to go put in there? Do they need to go put another ball in there? Well, what's going to happen with that? Looking at the next week's episode, doesn't look like things are going to be playing along with that. What's going to happen with that? Now that there's no one in the Speed Force, what is happening with that? I mean, Jay Garrett does say, we'll have to wait and see what happens if we end up needing to do something with that. But something's going to have to happen. Someone's going to have to go in there. Now, there was some rumors, and I even see some people posting right now that kind of, like, as I was watching the episode, that, Jesse Quick might die in this episode, which, of course, she wasn't going to die in this episode because she has to go make an appearance. She has an appearance over on Legends, which hopefully she doesn't die. I really don't want to lose her. I think it's cool having her around. Doesn't need to be in every episode and stuff, although it would be cool to see her become a permanent member of Legends. Although, since they have Wally West, another speedster, would just kind of be like, why? They'd be overpowered, I guess. To have two speedsters there's just no need to have them, but it would be cool to see her appear cameos here and there throughout all the other shows, and I think it would be fun to keep her around, and just don't see any reason to actually killing her off. And then we get the reveal that Jay is retiring, and Jay says he's kind of training a new Flash, which is interesting. Is he talking about Jesse Quick? I'm kind of unclear whether or not she's going to forget what Earth she's on. So maybe I'm going to look that up online to see, what Earth is Jesse Quick from and what Earth is Dr. Wells from. They're from the same Earth as Jay Garrick, and that's where he's taken over as Flash. She's going to take over as Flash from Jay Garrick, which that's the one thing I like about that. I didn't want to see them, kill off Jay Garrick, kill off Jesse Quick, especially not Jay Garrick, because John Wesley being the former Flash from the TV show, I need to have him all around, and I think it's the show. It's so much better when you have him around, and I love the legacy casting like this, and it makes the show so much. It's one of these things that stand out so much about these shows is that they keep doing these legacy castings. So whether or not he's around or not doesn't matter, but having him always around and just around the corner, easy for them to bring him on, I think it's good to have that. So the idea of Jay Garrick retiring, cool, that's okay. One thing, yeah, and then maybe he's not on as often, but you can still have him around. Real emergency, you can have him around. He is another speedster. He's not going to lose his powers if he goes to retire type thing. He's still around if you really need him, if he needs to do one more time type thing. He's still around for his knowledge, he can still come around to, get some advice. If Barry needs some advice, he can still go see him. You can still see him for different stuff, and I think that is where Jay Garrick's really going to shine. Whether he's still the Flash or not doesn't matter, as long as he still has the option of wearing that costume. Every now and then he can still do that, even if he does retire. And it just makes it so that whenever Barry needs him as the Flash, the stakes are going to have to be way more higher than they will be. But he can still go see him for some advice, from some knowledge on the Speed Force or whatever. I think that could be really cool to still learn some stuff, and still having him kind of around, but not necessarily permanently around as a Legends. Although I would have loved to see Jay Garrick joining the Legend of Tomorrow. I think that would have been really cool. He could have replaced kind of Martin Stein as the older member of the group, and I think that could have been cool. Instead of having everyone being kind of younger on this, having someone a little bit older would kind of balance out the whole Legend of Tomorrow thing, and I think it could be kind of cool with that. But if it's him retiring, I think that kind of, we'll see how things go with that. Maybe he gets bored in retirement and decides to go help the Legends. But maybe he could. It would be cool to see if he joins the Legends with already having Wally West on there as a Flash. Maybe he joins the Legend just as a strategist. Maybe he could join the Legends without being a Flash, without ever using his speed for his powers. Just the guy on the ship who kind of runs the Wave Rider type thing. I don't know. I think it would be cool to see that, but I guess not if he's staying on his Earth doing that. So that was kind of cool with that. Hopefully we just don't get rid of him completely. I really don't want to see that. I like keeping him around, even if he's just there for advice or someone for Barry to talk to, or even knowledge about the Speed Force. That could definitely be cool with that. And then we get Wells shares his memory of Jesse's mom with Jesse and stuff. That was a great moment. Although it would have been cool to see that moment, a glimpse of it, even if it was just kind of a glimpse of it. It was really powerful the way they did it. I guess it could have been a little bit more powerful if they had shown us a little bit of what it was. Maybe seeing what they're seeing inside of each other's head, what memory he's showing her, so that it kind of can look like Jesse is looking at her and seeing what her mother looks like. And I think that could have been a very good moment, because you don't have to really cast an actress. You just kind of, they clearly did for the voice. For the voice of the actress, it would have been cool just to kind of see her kind of reacting and kind of seeing her without being able to interact and touch her, but kind of seeing those things. And I think that just would have been a cool moment, even if it was just a very quick glimpse of the mother and then just zoom back out. I think it would have worked. But it was cool the way they did it there, and a nice moment that they had going on. And then we get some stuff with Caitlin and Dr. and Wells, or they're at Jitters, and they're talking about how Caitlin's kind of worried about having Killer Frost inside of her, and whenever Killer Frost is around, she has no idea what goes on. She just loses all that time that Killer Frost is in control. And this time, she said that she now remembers stuff. And I thought she was going to say something about, Barry told her what Killer Frost did. Now, maybe it's interesting to see how they're going to play with that, how Caitlin's starting to, be more aware of what's going on as Killer Frost. Is this going to transform into Caitlin taking over and taking control of Killer Frost and her powers? Which I would hope not, because I like having the two different characters inside of there. I think those play on each other, and having her kind of evil kind of is really kind of interesting to play with as things go on. But the idea of maybe her getting a little bit more aware of what's going on is an interesting idea. And is that Killer Frost letting Caitlin in, because she was afraid of them dying, and Killer Frost was afraid of Caitlin dying. She said to Barry, don't let Katie die. That at the end of the day, that could just be her, Killer Frost, just kind of worried of, don't let me die. But she's also worried for Caitlin, and that kind of was that Killer Frost letting Caitlin remember that? Was she, letting Caitlin remember that? How does that work inside of there? Does Killer Frost have that much control over her brain to let Caitlin remember what parts, type of thing? That could be interesting to see that, and playing with that inside of her. It could be quite interesting to see that, especially if they bring in some other characters who could, join, who could maybe if Wells uses that memory thing to jump inside her head, and maybe that could kind of see where things are going. He could take a look inside her head with that new memory reading thing that he used to share his memories with Jesse. That could be interesting to see that where things as time goes on. And then we get the Wells and Caitlin meet. They get interrupted by Dawn Allen, if I'm not mistaken. Try and put her name maybe on the screen if it's not that, but I'm pretty sure it's Dawn Allen, who she's supposed to be, who she's rumored to be so far from the comics, is a futuristic version of Iris and Barry's daughter, who comes back in time, which is an interesting idea. They keep teasing her, and yet things are not going anywhere with it. And with the next week's storyline, I was kind of hoping, okay, now we're jumping into it. Now we're going to go into it. We're episode 15. We're going to start going on to it, and no more filler episodes going from now on. But it looks like next week's episode we're getting a filler episode, which could be fun, could be interesting, with the idea of Iris West becoming a speedster. That looks kind of interesting to see that. But at the same time, if she just kind of gets, if Barry somehow gives his powers to Iris, and then loses his powers for an episode, and then at the end of the episode, everything goes back to normal. Barry gets his powers back, Iris loses her powers, and no one's the wiser. Nothing ever happens. I hate for it to be a filler episode that you could just skip over. I mean, this episode but it was a great episode. He learned so much. It was cool. Everything was going on. Everything took place between like a couple of milliseconds, and that was awesome. It was a great episode. But this next week's episode could be cool if they do it right. It could be a fun episode. I just think that if they do another filler episode, they need to work really harder to make it a really good episode. Because if it's not connected to the storyline, to the main season storyline, why are you wasting my time? So it needs to be really, really good next week's episode. A lot of people were hoping that it was kind of a different Iris that was getting the different version of Iris that was getting the powers. We'll have to wait and see where things go with that. They play it off in the trailer as if Caitlin even says, "Oh, Iris is a speedster now," type thing, as if it's set in stone. It's that's it, and you're no longer speedster Flash. Iris is now the new Flash, which. Don't know why she wouldn't just put on the Flash costume, because everyone in Transfer City knows the Flash, so why not just make a smaller, form-fitting version of the Flash costume so that she can still portray the Flash, rather than bringing up a whole new speedster that everyone has to, in the city has to figure out, they're going to start trusting them, start figuring out how that works, but someone still needs to play the Flash so that all the villains that are out there don't go, "Oh, the Flash is gone. There's just this new rookie superhero here. I'm gonna go back and attack Central City." How is that gonna play out? And we'll see if this episode, if is DeVoe involved in the switching of the powers, going over to Iris West. I mean, that could be cool. Dealing with that, him just like switching the powers on them, and then now he knows, you have no idea how to use those powers, so I'm going to be able to, play around with that, and how things are going to go when she gets the powers. Is she going to get the skills and are they going to get the powers at where they are now on Barry, like his now knowledge, or is she going to have to learn them just like Barry was at the beginning of season 1? Is she going to be brand new to these powers, like a new speedster, uncontrolled and stuff, not knowing how to use them? Or are they going to be, all these powers that have been kind of learnt that Barry has right now, and she's going to be, doesn't have the skills quite to do them, but the power levels are all set up to Barry right now. I think that could be another interesting way to play it off. But hopefully DeVoe is involved with the kind of transferring of the powers to keep this as a non-filler episode, and that could be interesting to see that. And maybe he decides to do something, he switches their powers so that he can do that. But Iris doesn't know how to control her powers, and it's running too fast, running this, and all kinds of stuff is going on with her powers, and then DeVoe is able to do some stuff because Iris has to learn how to do these things. Whereas if Barry had his powers, he would have simply stopped that thing from happening. Really easy, no problem solved. That's really easy. That's it, quick, done. But Iris is learning to use these new powers, has a difficult time to doing it. So I think that could be cool to do that. Hopefully, though, the DeVoe is involved with that. All in all, we'll have to wait and see how things go with the next episode. Could be fun, but like I said, I don't see them keeping her keeping the powers throughout the episode. By the end of the episode, I don't see Barry. I see Barry would totally have his powers going by the end of the episode. I would be surprised, though, if this does last a few times. I mean, they did go on and make her a costume for this. It doesn't look like a super complicated costume. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe it doesn't look like anything that they've seen before. I mean, we did see they made like Jessie Quick's suit. They made like earlier on when they made Trajectory, which is a supervillain, evil supervillain who was stealing stuff from people. She kind of I think she just ran herself into dust or type of thing. But they made the costume for Trajectory and then used the same costume for Jessie Quick. So they put all the money into the costume. They knew that they were going to use it again afterwards. So we'll have to wait and see where things going with this. That costume could look interesting to see where things going with that. I mean, the fact that they're making her a costume, who knows, that could be an indicator towards the fact that they're wanting to keep her a speedster for a little bit. That could be fun, especially if it lasts a few episodes. But we'll have to wait and see how they go, and then I'm going to take a look at the costume again to see, are they going to put all kinds of money into a costume just to use it for one episode? I don't see them doing that. That's a lot of money to design a costume like that just to kind of one and done. So we'll have to wait and see how long that goes and where things go with that. Maybe the costume sticks around. Who knows? But hopefully it's not a filler episode, and DeVoe definitely needs to be involved with the switching of the powers. Maybe he does something and, he's able to get away with it because Iris is not able to control her powers. And with, Wally West gone doing his own thing, Jay gone back to his own place, and Jesse Quick gone to her place, that could be kind of difficult to do that. Now Iris is the only one left to do that. So it would be cool to do that. It would be cool to see that, maybe get some sort of a reference next week's episode to maybe Wally West being with the Legends, and maybe we can get that, they try and text Wally West and he doesn't respond, or he responds as like, oh, I'm in 1872 or whatever type thing, with the Legends, busy, sorry. Or they call his mailbox machine and he just they give him a call and his answer machine picks up on his phone and says, yeah, I'm helping the Legends, sorry, type thing, leave a message in time if you need me. And they're like, oh, well, Wally's busy with the Legend of Tomorrow, saving time. That would be a cool thing, and it would be cool to get Iris's reaction to that, Joe's reaction to that. I mean, the whole team's reaction to that, but mainly Iris and Joe's reaction to Wally West playing with time and the Legend of Tomorrow doing that. That would be cool to get their reactions to that. But yeah, so all in all, this was a good episode. Definitely can't wait to see where things go in next week's episode, but hopefully, fingers crossed, that it's not a filler episode, because that would be a bummer. But this one was great. Peace out, guys.
I'm Captain America, here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have.
Subscribing.
Sometimes subscribing is the key to victory. Sometimes it leads to very little, and it seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointing. How many more of these?
You're still here.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Peace.
It's over.